I became a teen mom to take care of my nephew when my sister didn't want him. Now my sister's daughter is jealous of her brother because our family is poor. I took on the responsibility of raising my nephew while finishing high school with the help of my grandmother. My parents didn't provide much support. Eventually, I was kicked out by my sister and her husband, so I sought legal custody of my nephew. My grandmother passed away, but she left most of her belongings to me. My parents and sister tried to reconnect, but I set boundaries with them. My father has maintained a close relationship with my son and me, while my relationship with my mother is distant but civil. My sister became pregnant, and she started to tell my son that we wouldn't love him anymore once her own child arrived. This caused my son a lot of distress, but we reassured him that we would always love him. We cut contact with my sister again and sought therapy for my son. When I had my own child, I made it clear that our love for my nephew wouldn't change. After 2 years, my sister reached out again, but we decided to have limited contact with her, with the approval of my son and husband. My husband and I are living comfortably, while my sister and her husband struggle. I sometimes helped out financially with my kids' extracurricular activities and gave them the presents they wanted, but I did not do the same for my niece. When my sister asked me to buy a car for my niece, I refused, leading to tension in the family. I explained to my niece that my son will always be more important to me because he is my son, while she is just my niece. I have maintained a strained relationship with my sister and only interact with her on special occasions. I prioritize my sons above all else, which is why I kept my sister out of my life, especially around my children. Despite her negative comments, I have always put a stop to them. My sister only started showing interest in my family when she found out I was getting a car for my second son. I have distanced myself from her even more since then. I have a civil relationship with my parents now because they have made efforts to change, but I still do not fully trust them. My niece, who is my sister's daughter, is included in this dynamic, and I only have a relationship with my sister to discuss important family events. My sister never took care of my children and was not involved in their lives until recently. Despite past issues, my sister and I have a civil relationship due to our children attending the same school events. The person speaking is explaining a conversation they had with someone who was feeling jealous of their cousins. The person tries to explain that the cousins work for what they have and are not just given everything. The person asks why the jealous person is acting this way, and they start crying, saying they feel like an obligation and that they are jealous of the close family dynamic. The person explains that they cannot give the same love and attention to the jealous person as they do to their own children. The person's mother suggests giving the jealous person money for a car, but the person refuses. They feel for the jealous person but cannot fulfill their desires. The person asks for advice on what to do. The speaker's sister explained that despite being biologically siblings, they are cousins and will always be cousins. The sister knew how the speaker ended up adopting Luke, and her father had explained the situation more bluntly than the sister did. The speaker suggested therapy for the sister and discussed an incident where her husband ended up in the hospital due to an asthma attack. The sister vandalized the speaker's car, leading to her arrest. The sister and mother demanded that charges be dropped, but the speaker and her husband refused it. The sister often tried to demand things from the speaker, especially regarding money, and would involve their mother in attempts to get her way. My mom would intervene when my dad got involved, and I believe my sister spread false stories about me to her friends and some family members. She promised my niece a car, but never delivered. Despite some tension, I tried to maintain a civil relationship with my sister for the sake of my children, who attended the same school. I didn't want to disrupt my son's education by moving him to a different school, and my family only reconnected after my grandmother's death and the reading of her will.